service en exclusivité dès CanalSat Access. Et encore vite dans votre boutique Canal+.
This newscast, the second part coming up right ahead. In the second part of this newscast, this week is dedicated to women. Of course, on 8th of March 2015, we shall be celebrating the International Day for the Women. 20 years after the Beijing Conference, what is the state of the woman in Cameroon, in Africa, as well as the world? And tonight, we are privileged to have a Cameroonian woman who resident in the United States of America, of course, who was recently recognized as one of the most notable Africans in 2014. And tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we meet Mrs. Viola Llewellyn. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm fine, and you?
I'm excellent. Very glad to be here. Thank you.
The pronunciation, Viola Llewellyn?
Viola Llewellyn.
So who is Viola Llewellyn?
Well, I'm very proud to say I am originally from Cameroon, both of my parents, born in the UK. I've been returning back home like so many of the diaspora who see some value in our country as things begin to expand in Africa. I am the General Manager of Ovamba Cameroon Solutions and the Global Chief Operations Officer for our global entity, and we're based in Douala.
And you were recently recognized in 2014 as one of the most notable Africans. You are the 9th in that list.
I was very shocked and surprised to find this, and very humbled that the Bold and Fearless category for notable Africans had selected me. I better make sure I live up to it.
And so what reasons for this success? Tell us about your success story. You're a woman, and this week is dedicated for the women. That's why we have you here. Tell us more about your success story, being the most notable Africans in 2014.
Well, I think my story is not that different from many of the other women, especially those that are coming along now in the tech space, or entrepreneurs or individuals, women who find that there is now an opportunity to innovate on what we've always done. The typical average woman, especially in today's world, is responsible for managing resources, people, and addressing needs. And that's exactly what I do in my company, and exactly what I've been doing in business now for the last nearly 6 years, along with my business partner Marvin Cole.
You believe that innovation as well as entrepreneurship are the backbones of economies?
Yes, in fact, I would go as far to say as in most developing nations in Africa, anywhere from 65 to 75% are responsible for the output of GDP, based on the fact that most women have to create businesses for themselves in order to care for their children, their family, loved ones, and no matter where you go on this planet, women are frequently the source for making sure that there is well-being in their families and at large.
So tell us how you began. Did money just come from space? Or
don't we all wish? No. My previous background is so far away from where I arrived today. I had always been in sales and marketing and IT, and been in the finance worlds in the United States and the United Kingdom. I was born in the UK. If it wasn't for my mother bringing us back home when I was a kid, I'd probably have no ties to Cameroon. But the 4 years that I lived here were so impactful. Our nation is incredibly comforting and embracing of all of those of us who've been born abroad, whose parents have had the good sense to keep us connected to Africa and to Cameroon in general. So when I decided that I wanted to move on and do my own thing after the 2008 crash, I got in contact with a friend who introduced me to Marvin Cole, and between the two of us, in fact, it was he who convinced me that we need to take a look at Africa as a burgeoning environment. So I took everything that I ever knew in sales, marketing, consulting, government relations, and finance, and as we started to see how things were developing, the whole issue of helping Africans access capital began to really draw upon me, because that was my previous background. Now, as a woman, this was important to me because I felt that with this large number of women driving GDP again through all of these activities, there would be a way in which I could put myself on the business scene to create products and services that would help them to help other people.
So when you look at the African woman now, 20 years after the Beijing conference, the famous what a man can do, a woman can do even more. When you look at the African woman now, what is the state? What can you say? What are your comments of the African woman, especially Cameroonian woman today?
Cameroonian women specifically, and African women as a whole, believe it or not, tend to be way more educated than their counterparts in the Western world. And when they are in the Western world, they are most definitely outstripping individuals as it relates to higher education, financial stability, believe it or not. We always hear of Africa with this gloom and doom story, but in fact, we're a better credit risk than in other nations. We don't have a lot of the instruments that would create a dearth of debt and misappropriation of capital. We just don't have the tools. So the average African woman is highly innovative, very, very, very creative, and is more likely to collaborate and partner with other women than you might see amongst men working together. Our natural synergies, our natural personas make it that we tend to put egos aside in order to work across the aisles with different individuals and to come up with creative ways to address issues and problems. Now, at the crux of every entrepreneur, male or female, is the ability to decide what a problem is, define it, and create a monetized solution in order for there to be a proliferation of success, capital, and money. And we all need money, especially women.
And you believe that the woman makes a better entrepreneur than the man? I was reading about you, some of that.
I'm sure there are those that would argue against it, and it would be one of those typical conversations that Cameroonians who love to debate would like to tear to pieces. I think that it's not a case of better or worse, it's a case of different, and it's a case of timing. This is truly an era of women and what they're able to contribute to societies and to economies.
What are some of these, disadvantages, or should I say obstacles? Can the geopolitical atmosphere be some major obstacles? I mean, what are your obstacles coming to Cameroon? Have you had any so far?
Yes, I have obstacles every single day, and if it wasn't for those obstacles, I would not be able to stretch my challenge muscle, as I call it. Let's be realistic. There will be a certain level of sexism that is not going to go away anytime soon. And to women out there, I would say that if you do not subject yourself to the rules, you don't have to play the game. If you find that you run into obstacles that are related to your gender, then go find somebody else to play with. I would also say that some of the challenges that we have are being able to exercise at speed. Most women need to do things in a hurry because we juggle so much. In terms of other obstacles, it's a case of making sure that the business models that we want to build are surrounded by the right regulatory environment, access to capital, and the right individuals that we can work with.
So, like a Cameroonian woman, to move out of this interview, how a Cameroonian woman watching at you right now at home on her TV set, what can she do to become, a powerful entrepreneur like you?
I think that the one ingredient that's missing from a woman's education is the ability to engender creativity. It tends to be sometimes the missing ingredient from a very good entrepreneur. To the Cameroonian woman, I would say to you that look deep within your heart and figure out what it is that you are passionate about, what you are good at, and pursue that regardless of what anybody may tell you to do. There will be some areas of practicality that you have to address, but if you do not stay true to the things that you're good at, you will have a very hard road in this life to follow. So find individuals who are like-minded as you, be smart about your money and your finance, and be very careful at planning how the rest of your life will go. It does not always have to be a gloom and doom story, but you will, if you put your mind to it, you will find those things that will bring you success.
Viola Llewellyn, thanks for joining us in this 6 p.m. newscast.
It was an absolute pleasure, and I want to wish all of the women out there a wonderful Women's Day in 2015. Thank you so much.
One of the, out of the 30 most notable Africans in 2014, you are 9th. And we must say you are a Cameroonian based in the US of A, the CEO, co-founder of Ovamba. Thanks for joining us in this edition, and televiewers, thanks for joining us in this maiden edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinox Television. Good night.